Once we feel comfortable with the large two-sample averages problems, we're now ready to do the small two-sample averages problems. The way, of course, to figure out which is large and which is small is the same rule that we'd always use if the degrees of freedom, which in this case is n1 plus n2 minus 2, if that's less than 30, we'll use the t with so many degrees of freedom, and we'll do the small sample test. The formulas for the small sample test are slightly different, and they're different when it comes to the standard deviations. In the large sample test we used an approximation for the standard deviation. Here we must use the exact value. So the t-calc is the same as the z-calc for the two-sample test. So it's x bar 1 minus x bar 2, sample difference minus mu1 minus mu2, the hypothesized difference, which will always be 0, divided by standard deviation, which is still called, of course, s of x bar 1 minus x bar 2, but is now the standard deviation that's calculated differently. So, s of x bar 1 minus x bar 2 is an item called sigma hat times the square root of 1 over n1 plus 1 over n2, where sigma hat is the combined sample standard deviation. Alright, we're going to throw both samples together in a sense and get one value for the standard deviation instead of having two of them, S1 and S2. And the formula for that looks a little messy. Sigma hat is the square root of n1 minus 1 times s1 squared plus n2 minus 1 times s2 squared divided by the total degrees of freedom, n1 plus n2 minus 2, and we take the square root of the whole thing. Alright, the value for this is a number which is between the S1 and the S2. Since it's a combination of these two values, the result must be between. Alright, so if you have a number line, say S1 over here and S2 over here, the order is not important. If we get inside that range, clearly we could be correct. If we're outside that range, either side, we're obviously wrong. So, and over here too, obviously wrong. So once you've calculated sigma hat, if you find a value outside your range between S1 and S2, do the calculation again, check it out. Alright, other than that, other than the fact that we're going to use t-values, critical t-values, and different formulas for the standard deviation, the rest of the process for doing a two-sample averages problem is the same as before. So let's go ahead now and look at some problems.